The F-35 Lightning II is not one fighter. It is three. The F-35A is the conventional land-based version flown by the U.S. Air Force. The F-35B is the short takeoff vertical landing model built for marine amphibious ships and the British Queen Elizabeth carriers. The F-35C is the catapult-launched carrier variant flown by the U.S. Navy. All three share the AN/APG-81 AESA radar, the electro-optical targeting system, distributed aperture sensors, and the same fused mission computer. One airframe. 3 doors into modern combat. Over 1,000 delivered. 20 air forces flying it. And every one of them quietly in the dark already writing history. The F-35 has struck deep inside Syria before Russian radar could react. It has flown combat sorties off a British carrier for the first time in 40 years. It has hunted Iranian cruise missiles under the desert stars over Jordan. And it stands right now on the eastern edge of NATO, watching Russia in absolute silence. This is every mission of the F-35 Lightning II. The date is May 22, 2018. Israel has just declared full operational capability for its F-35I fleet named Adir, the Hebrew word for mighty one. The chief of the Israeli Air Force steps to a podium at Beit Dagon. He says plainly that the F-35 has already been used in combat twice. He does not say when. He does not say where. He does not say who. But analysts trace the strikes back to targets deep inside Syria against Iranian Quds Force logistics. This is the first confirmed combat use of any fifth-generation stealth fighter in history. Not the F-22. Not any Chinese or Russian prototype. Israel. In Syria. In silence. The strike package lifts off Nevatim Air Base in the Negev Desert. 2 Adirs slip northeast into the cool desert night. The route is chosen to defeat Russian and Syrian radar coverage from the coast. The F-35I carries all fuel and all ordnance inside 2 internal weapons bays. There are no external pylons. There are no wing tanks. From the front aspect, radar returns collapse to the size of a small bird. Israeli engineers have also swapped in their own electronic warfare suite and command and control software, tuning the jet's signature specifically for the Middle Eastern threat picture. The pair cross the Syrian border below the horizon of the S-400 battery at Kemaimim. Russian operators light up their acquisition arrays. They see nothing worth chasing. Inside the cockpit, the Adir pilot watches a fused God's eye view. Every emitter within 100 miles is plotted, ranged, and named on the panoramic display. He sees a Panzer short-range battery blink to life 50 miles east. He notes it. He does not engage it. His target is a warehouse holding Iranian precision-guided munitions destined for Hezbollah. 2 Adirs pop up briefly to release Spice 2000 guided bombs. Bay doors open. The weapons drop. Doors snap shut. Total exposure window, less than 4 seconds per aircraft. 20 seconds later, the warehouse is a crater. The Adirs turn hard west. They are back in Israeli airspace before Syrian air defense controllers finish typing the alert. There is no counter-launch. There is no debris. Only a smoking hole and a question mark. For the world, it was a first. For a young Marine pilot floating in the Arabian Sea, it was a starting gun. September 27, 2018. The USS steams in the North Arabian Sea. On her deck sit 6 F-35B jump jets belonging to Marine Fighter Attack Squadron 211, the Wake Island Avengers. They are on the first operational deployment of the F-35B ever. Their target sits in southern Kandahar, Afghanistan. The Taliban weapons cache, tucked into a mud-walled compound tracked for weeks by a Global Hawk drone. The Marines want a signature strike to prove the jet in combat. Not a bomb from a drone. Not a Tomahawk. A stealth fighter, launched from a small deck ship, dropping a precision weapon on a hardened target hundreds of miles inland. If it works, it rewrites marine aviation. The launch cycle begins at midday. 2 F-35Bs light their afterburners. The short deck of the Essex slides under them. They lift off with a short roll takeoff and turn north. The F-35B routes engine thrust through a lift fan installed behind the cockpit and a 3-bearing swivel nozzle in the tail. On short takeoff, the nozzle vectors partially downward and the lift fan adds 15,000 pounds of cold thrust. The jet rises without a full runway. It is the only stealth fighter in the world that can do this from an amphibious ship. 2 KC-130 tankers meet the flight over southern Iran. The F-35s take on fuel and press east. 90 minutes later, they are over Kandahar. The lead pilot calls the compound in sight on the electro-optical targeting system. The pod at the nose provides an infrared image with resolution fine enough to count the vehicles in the courtyard. It confirms the compound matches the intelligence picture. Weapons free. Bay doors open. A single GBU-32 JATM releases. The bomb glides for 40 seconds. The compound flashes white. Secondary explosions rip through the courtyard for the next 2 minutes. Ammunition cooks off. The truck lifts off the ground. The Marines log the world's first F-35B combat strike. They turn south and return to the Essex. By dinner, they are back on deck. 2 hours later, the ship's public affairs officer releases a short statement. No pilot name. No specific target. Just a sentence and a photo of a jet on a ramp. The Marines proved the jet from the sea. The Air Force still had to prove it from the land. April 30th, 2019. 2 U.S. Air Force F-35As from the 388th Fighter Wing at Hill Air Force Base sit on the ramp at Al Dhafra in the United Arab Emirates. They are 2 days into their first combat deployment. Their target is a network of tunnel caves in the Hamran Mountains of northern Iraq. Islamic State fighters have re-infiltrated the region after the collapse of the Caliphate. The caves have thick overhead cover. Only a precision weapon dropped in a specific glide window will reach the entrance. The Air Force needs the F-35A to prove it can do something the F-16 and A-10 already do. Only cleaner. Only quieter. Only with less risk to the pilot. The 2 F-35As launch just after dawn. They climb to 30,000 feet and cruise north across Saudi Arabia. Their radars stay silent. They watch. Nothing watches back. The AN/APG-81 radar can transmit in a low probability of intercept mode. It hops frequencies thousands of times a second. It spreads energy across a wide spectrum. To an enemy signals intelligence operator, the returns look like random background noise. The F-35 can search the sky without announcing itself. Its electronic warfare suite, the AN/ASQ-239, sits beneath the same fused picture and identifies every emitter by class and threat priority in real time. Above Iraq, the pair check in with a joint terminal air controller working with Iraqi ground forces. He passes them coordinates and a laser designation frequency. The pilots run the attack. They release 2 GBU-49 laser-guided bombs. The weapons arc over the ridge and strike the cave mouth at a shallow angle. The overpressure rolls through the tunnel. Cave-ins seal the interior. Ground teams later find the collapsed passages littered with weapons and ammunition. The F-35As turn south. They land at Al Dhafra 6 hours later. The Air Force releases a photograph of a jet parked in the sun, weapons bay closed, ordnance count reduced by 2. Analysts around the world circle the frame. The F-35A has drawn blood. The land war was a proving ground. The next test would come from something floating, moving, and British. June 22, 2021. 2 F-35Bs of No. 617 Squadron of the Royal Air Force sit on the deck of HMS Queen Elizabeth. The 70,000-ton carrier is transiting the eastern Mediterranean on her maiden operational deployment. The mission is Operation Shahed, Britain's ongoing air campaign against remnants of the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. If the pilots strike a target from this deck, it will be the first time a British aircraft carrier projects fifth-generation air power in combat. The last time a Royal Navy carrier flew a combat sortie was against Argentina in 1982. Britain has waited 4 decades for this moment. The 2 Ghost Squadron jets launch off the ski jump ramp in mid-morning. They join a mixed strike package with U.S. Marine F-35Bs also embarked aboard the Queen Elizabeth. The jets fly east across Cyprus and refuel from RAF Voyager tankers over Jordan. The mission is armed reconnaissance across northern Iraq. No. 617 Squadron flies the F-35B with the Paveway 4 dual-mode guided bomb inside its internal weapons bays. Paveway 4 accepts inertial GPS and laser guidance. It can be retargeted in flight. It can strike a static target or hit a moving vehicle at low angle. It is the RAF's primary precision weapon, and it fits 4 to a jet inside the F-35B's bays. Over the target area, the flight is vectored to a suspected ISIS position identified by Iraqi forces on the ground. The pilots run the target through the electro-optical targeting system. They pass the imagery to the joint controller. He approves the strike. Bay doors open. A single paveway drops. Impact. The pilots roll off target. They tank on the way back. 6 hours after they left the deck, they return to the Queen Elizabeth. The catch: No British pilot from this squadron has ever flown a combat sortie from a British carrier before. Every single one is a first. Britain has re-entered the carrier strike game. She never left. She just paused. British deck launched history. 3 years later, the sky over Tel Aviv would burn, and the Adir would fly again. April 13, 2024. Iran launches its first ever direct attack on Israeli soil. 330 projectiles rise from Iranian, Iraqi, Syrian, and Yemeni launch sites. The salvo includes 170 Shahed loitering munitions, 30 land attack cruise missiles, and 120 ballistic missiles. Target: Israel. Every combat aircraft in Israel's inventory scrambles. 25 F-35I, Adirs go airborne within an hour. Their job is not to strike Iran. Their job is to hunt drones and cruise missiles in the dark, over the Arabian and Jordanian deserts hundreds of miles from the airfields that launched them. This is the largest air defense engagement in F-35 history. The Adirs push east into Jordanian and Iraqi airspace with permission from both governments. Their fused picture shows the drone stream flowing west toward Israel like a river of dots. Air-to-air combat against a slow, low-flying drone is harder than it sounds for a stealth fighter. The Shahed cruises at 18,000 feet, at 115 miles per hour with a small radar cross-section built for evasion. The Adir must fly slow enough to engage without stalling, use its infrared search and track to spot the tiny warm plume, and cue an AIM-9X Sidewinder missile onto a target barely bigger than a lawnmower engine. The pilots switch from combat air patrol posture to hunter mode. The Adirs engage. One after another, AIM-9X missiles reach out and turn drones into brief white sparks against black desert. Each Adir tallies multiple kills that night. By dawn, the Israeli Air Force confirms Adir pilots downed the majority of Israeli intercepted drones and multiple cruise missiles. Combined with US F-15s, Jordanian F-16s, British Typhoons, and Israeli aero batteries, Iran's opening blow lands as a whimper. 99% of the salvo is destroyed before it enters Israeli airspace. The Adir goes from strike specialist to air superiority hunter in the span of one long night. And no one is surprised because the jet was built for both. The desert night belonged to the Adir. Above the Alaskan tundra, another F-35 was learning to stalk a very different kind of prey. Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson sits at the top of the world, home to 2 combat-coded F-35A squadrons of the 354th Fighter Wing. Their beat is the Alaska Air Defense Identification Zone. When Russian Tu-95 Bear bombers or Su-35 fighters probe the zone off the coast, the F-35As launch. This is not combat. This is deterrence. It is the daily job of standing in a hostile doorway and staring. In 2023, the pace picks up dramatically. Russian long-range patrols increase. Chinese H-6 bombers begin joining them for the first time. The F-35A becomes the face the West puts against those returning turboprops. The typical intercept starts with a phone call. NORAD watches a track climb out of Kamchatka and head east. 2 F-35As lift off Elmendorf inside minutes. They climb through the Alaska overcast and stabilize at 40,000 feet. Inside the cockpit, the pilot flies with a distributed aperture system fed by 6 infrared sensors bonded to the airframe. The system streams a 360-degree infrared image directly onto his helmet visor. He can look through the floor of the aircraft. He can look at the tail. He can see a warm engine plume 40 miles away in absolute darkness. Bear appears as a slow, bright thermal signature at the edge of the picture. The F-35As approach from above and behind. They slow, drop landing gear, and formate on the wing of the bomber. Russian pilots wave. American pilots wave back. Cameras click. The Bear turns northwest. The F-35 has shepherded it to the edge of the zone and return home. The routine repeats a dozen times a year. It is not glamorous. It is not violent. But every intercept is a message. The F-35 is here silently from now on. Moscow and Beijing know it. Cold sky, cold politics. Farther south, another F-35 was quietly holding the eastern edge of NATO together. February 24, 2022. Russia invades Ukraine. NATO's eastern flank goes on alert. Within 72 hours, U.S. Air Force F-35As from the 421st Fighter Squadron out of Hill land at Spangdahlem in Germany. Days later, they are forward deployed to Powidz Air Base in Poland and to airfields in Estonia and Romania. Their mission is not to attack. Their mission is to be seen. To fly the length of NATO's eastern border, to hold the airspace with sensor fusion no adversary can match. And to make one message clear to Moscow. Any escalation across a NATO border will meet a fifth-generation wall. The F-35 has fly integrated missions with Polish F-16s, Romanian F-16s, and Baltic partners. F-35s carry the multifunction advanced data link, or MADL, a stealth-friendly, low probability of intercept data link. On this deployment, MADL lets a formation of F-35s share targeting data with each other without emitting a detectable signal. The formation appears as one aircraft on adversary radar. It is actually four. The lead aircraft can hand off tracks silently while the trailers absorb the picture and prepare a weapons solution. In November 2022, a Ukrainian air defense missile falls into Polish territory near Przewodów, killing two. NATO's eastern airspace lights up in seconds. 35 as already airborne over Poland vector to the impact point. They scan for follow-on threats. They find none. Their sensor track lands in the US and Polish command centers in real time. The incident does not escalate. Analysts credit the immediate calm and clarity in part to the fifth-generation picture already in the sky. Since then, F-35 squadrons rotate through Estonia, Poland, Romania, and Lithuania continuously. They fly quiet reconnaissance profiles along the Belarusian and Russian borders. They collect. They share. They deter. The eastern edge of NATO is not a wall of tanks anymore. It is a lattice of stealth fighters, and the F-35A is the beam that holds it together. Land, sea, and cold northern sky. That is where the Lightning has already earned its name, and it is only the beginning. The F-35 Lightning II is not one story. It is dozens. Every squadron that has flown it in anger has written a new chapter, and the jet is still early in its life cycle. Deliveries will continue past 2040. The next major upgrade, Block 4, brings a new engine, new weapons, and new electronic warfare capability. Every mission so far has been Prologue. If you want to see the next chapter as it happens, subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because when the lightning strikes again, we will be here. Sensors on. Silent. Waiting.